Hi, so welcome to the 2019 SU Debate. My name is Tina and I will be moderating today's debate along with Aaron and Thomas. So first we'll start off with the opening introduction where each ticket will introduce their most important policies, and that will take around 2 minutes max. Afterwards we'll go into general questions and then specific questions the board has for you guys, and then we'll have ticket Q&A, which is around 20 minutes for each ticket to ask each other questions, so it will be more debatey. And then after we will have audience Q&A and then the closing. And also for signals, so Aaron will do this when you have 10 seconds left, and then this for 5. And we'll do this if you guys aren't loud enough. Okay, so starting off with opening introduction, who wants to start? Don't get too excited. Okay, Vishwaa and Julian.
Sure.
Great.
Hi, my name is Vishwaa Sofat.
Hi, my name is Julian.
And we're Team Vision. So essentially, if you've already not looked at our platform, we have 3 pillars. So one is transparency, the second is accessibility, and the last is inclusivity. We've been in the SU, and our experience adds up to half a decade. So we know the ins and outs of student union and what the organizations at this school do, and how we can all work together as stakeholders to improve this community. But what makes us really different is we're using this knowledge to our advantage. We're changing how the student union has functioned and how it should be including the students. As cheesy as it might sound, there's the student word is student union for a reason, and we want to bring it back and make sure that you're part of the process of representing you.
We have 4 main platform goals. The first one is about changing the structure of the student union and of caucuses. We want to make sure that caucus has better representation and better funding, and we want to make sure that the SU is streamlined to have only the positions that are necessary and effective. The second part of our policy is working with the community. We want to make sure that we're partnering with all of our networks and all of the necessary stakeholders in the process of creating policy change with the SU. That means the Parent Association, the Alumni Association, UFT, SLT, the administration. And with these partnerships, we want to use them to improve student life at Stuyvesant. We have a variety of policies that are uploaded on our site, such as PSAL freeze, we want to work with that, getting those, college trips, and we also want to make some online resources for Stuyvesant students to access things like the Student Opportunities Bulletin, the Alumni Access Program. And most importantly of all, one of our big campaign goals is to promote transparency and communication within the student union. And as part of this, we've been making sure our campaign is as transparent and communicative as possible. The Facebook page, website, and a detailed platform that we've released online. Overall, this campaign is centered around students and for students, and we want to make sure that students on Stuyvesant are incredibly involved both in the campaign and also in the student union.
And with that being said, with your vote and our vision, we can create change.
Thank you. Peter and Ted.
Hi, my name is Peter Tam. I'm a junior at Stuyvesant.
My name is Ted. I'm a sophomore.
What we're looking for by standing up during the Fund of Everyone is we're looking to solve the problems that the student union has either been slow to fix or been unable to fix. And so we see it as sort of our obligation as not only students but members of the Stuyvesant community to work with everyone else in order to improve student life, to increase representation, and also to change the role that the Stuyvesant Union has in the school.
So what our campaign focuses mostly on is the students' health, happiness, and success. And we plan to do this in 3 ways. Our first is to redefine the student union roles. This includes one aspect where we redefine how members get impeached, which is, as we're going to allude to later, revolving around the student congress. We're also going to increase student union presence in altercations, so the student union will be more hands-on when problems arise. In addition, there will be weekly communications reports. So again, this will increase transparency. The students have a right to know what the student union is doing, and the student union will work in conjunction with Mr. Blum and Ms. Ingram. In addition, we're going to increase student representation. This is our biggest sort of brainchild. We're going to be introducing the Student Congress, which is made up of homeroom representatives. How it's going to work is that there's 2 homeroom representatives for every homeroom. There's going to be 4 tickets, and the homeroom teacher approves two of them. In addition, the Student Congress will be voting on almost all issues, and as we will elaborate later on. And finally, the students' health. So we're going to focus on mental health and physical health. In terms of mental health, we're going to have a stricter crackdown on homework. So if a student feels like the teacher is giving them more than 30 minutes of homework, they can anonymously report to the student union website, in which case the student union will talk with the teachers that are giving them excess homework. There's going to be a consolidation of grades on Jupiter Ed, and there's also going to be, in terms of physical education, there's going to be less hands. So in the bathroom, everything is going to be, you can just move your hand and...
Thank you. Caleb and Chelsea.
Okay, my name is Caleb. Okay, so here are some actual policies. Coffee machines, Naviance, but for summer programs, an SU teacher coefficient, firing protocols for presidents and vice presidents, boycotting AP exams, requesting teacher name release for fair allocation of good teachers to students, getting students on Fiverr or other freelancing agencies, and an experimental dating club, and much more. So not a single person in our campaign has served on SU. This will be the first time in forever, at least a very long time, where a non-establishment campaign will hold the SU presidency, if you so choose. To show that we are sincere about being democratic, we will create an initiative and referendum for students to change the SU Constitution and to create new policies. Additionally, you could elect us without fear, as we will implement, as said above, the recall. You should look that up if you're not in U.S. history. We will implement the most progressive administration in the history of SU history. All funding and spending will be released in a daily log, and all economic decisions and club funding decisions by the SU will be decided by a popular vote by the people. All SU positions, besides for the insertions of my 4 campaign managers, will be decided by civil service examinations, avoiding all sense of nepotism. And we're the only campaign for female vice president. Okay.
Thank you. So now we're going to head into general questions, which you will have 1 minute to answer. So to start off.
Oh, okay. So the first question is, tell us your current praises and criticisms of the current SU.
I'll start off with that. So after talking to a lot of students about the SU campaign, I found that a lot of students don't care at all. And I think that's like extremely unbelievable, considering that the SU is supposed to benefit the students. And I think that really shows how the SU is not changing what people want to see. And that's what our campaign aims to change.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Right, so one of the issues we see with the SU is simply the fundamentals, the Constitution. The Constitution gives a very general outline of every single role. And so essentially what the SU is just doing is they're giving their own roles to what each member has to do. And the problem just sort of exacerbates when we don't actually understand, what is happening inside the student union, right? We want sort of more transparency within the student union, and we want students to have more of a say in what is happening. And so that's sort of something that's lacking in the current student union.
Thank you.
So let's start off with some rebuttal. When we first released our positions and what you could apply for as any student, there was a clear outline of what each role entailed. That means the students have the access to know what our team does and what we're doing to benefit them. Every month, a newsletter has been released in which every department shares what they've done, every caucus shares what they've done. That's transparency. And the progress that we've made, we've brought 3 different ideas to SLT. The PSAL freeze was talked about, cell phone policy was talked about, and homework policy, well, cell phone policy was passed, and homework policy is currently being drafted and will be passed at the rate we're going. So the progress that has been made under this current administration is fantastic, but there are some downsides.
Most of all, I think we feel that there's a lack of transparency and student involvement in the student union, which is what we're basing our campaign upon. We want to make sure that all students have an opportunity to be in the student union and that we're being overly communicative with them so as to ensure that the policies that we put out are most representational as possible.
Thank you. Our next question is, what are some specific policy changes that you think are most important to the student body?
Should I repeat what I said in my campaign announcement?
If you want to elaborate on like a specific policy.
Okay, so
So one of our biggest idea is what he mentioned before, initiative, referendum, and recall. In terms of that, we want to create a system where students, they can petition for what they want, and the SU will be personally, we will not be able to guarantee that what everyone wants will be granted. But what we're trying to do is create, as he said, the weekly law, which shows exactly what we've done, who we talked to, what happened after the conversation, and what we're doing in terms of that. And that's, and in addition to that, the recall policy, where you can, if you're not satisfied with the progress we've made throughout the year, you can impeach the president.
Every 2 weeks, if a citizen decides to bring a petition with 100 votes, then the student union will take a popular vote and it will be reached if it's the majority.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah.
As I mentioned in the introduction speech, we're going to introduce the student congress. Currently, most policies are voted on by the administration and the executive council. But what we're going to implement is the student congress, as we mentioned. It's made up of home representatives, and the student congress will be essential to pass any legislation. And the student congress, since it's made up of a majority student body, the student body is going to be able to voice their support for certain things or not voice their support. So the student congress is essentially going to facilitate representation.
Thank you.
It seems a little hard to make a student congress when in the past caucuses have failed to even get one homeroom representative from each homeroom, and making that 2 seems unfeasible to us. So instead, what we really want to do is bring change, enforcing the homework policy. If we pass a policy this year, enforcing it is more important and making sure that administrators do their job instead of students going to teachers and talking. That's where our power should lie. Alumni Access Program. Our alumni are an invaluable resource, asset to us. They've gone to the best universities, held the best positions, and led this country as our congresswoman for this school, specifically Gerald Nadler, shows. So working with them, giving us internships, answering our questions, that's something we want to work with the Alumni Association for.
And adding on to the alumni aspect, another part that we want to work on is college trips for seniors and juniors. It's been taken away from the school for quite a few years, and we think that with our advocacy to the administration, we can improve that. And then we also want to improve access of opportunities to students, and one of those ways is expanding Stuyvesant for more student discounts and making the opportunities for Harvey-Blum a website.
Okay, our next question. How would you accomplish these changes realistically?
Just like whatever policies you just described. Yes, Ted and Peter?
So for the student congress, I think it's important to realize that a majority of the student body doesn't know what a student union is, doesn't know its role in the school, and isn't really too informed of it. So the prime time when the students are most excited in school is the freshman year when they're just entering. So what we propose is that when students come their freshman year, one of the first couple of weeks we have an extended homeroom period where we have a sort of briefing on the student union, what goes on in the student union, the positions, and how they could apply for the said homeroom representative. So not only will this make the student congress an easier task to accomplish, because students are going to know more about the student union, but also they're going to just be more informed about policies.
Thank you.
Well, my policies require the amending of the SU Constitution, so according to the rule book, I have to get 2/3 of all the cabinet members, and so I basically have to get people on board, and that's it.
Okay, thank you.
So, like the ticket, we do agree that students should know about what the SU is doing, and that's why this year we went to Camp Sty and told every single freshman homeroom about how to apply, how to join, and what the student government, SU, and caucuses do. So we'll continue doing that. But how will we approach making sure our policies happen? Communicating with each stakeholder in this school. Parents, administration, alumni, and the administration. And the teachers, in fact, too. So if we talk with every single group that we're trying to work with, trying to create change around, then only will we get true change. If you go behind a teacher's back and try to change the homework policy, it doesn't work out. The UFD backlashes. You try to do something against Mr. Moran by going to Mr. Contreras, it doesn't work out, because then the next time you go to Mr. Moran, he's never going to want to work with you. So we have to work together, and that's what our campaign is built around. Working with you, working with everyone in the school, and moving together, because that's what a true community should look like, and that's what we want our community to look like.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the next question is, what sets you apart from the other tickets?
Let's start with Peter and Ted.
I feel that one of the main things that separates us from the other tickets is our idea of our platform. So essentially, we see ourselves as being able to push for the student congress and push for something that's vastly different than the other campaigns in terms of student representation. And I think this brainchild of ours is one of the main ways that we can actually make an impact on the student body and make sure that they understand what is exactly happening step by step in their student process, and we're making sure that this committee, this council of students, these representatives can have a say, and essentially decide what to do with the school's budget, to do with their policies, while at the same time still maintaining the sort of power that the executive council has.
Thank you. Vishwaa and Julian?
I think the main factor that sets our tickets apart is our experience in the student union. We have already created, well, first of all, Vishwaa has been the freshman caucus president, the sophomore caucus president, and is currently the SU vice president. And I've been the director of external affairs for the student union for the past 2 years. And so we have the experience, we have the connections and relationships with administrators, with teachers, with different organizations and stakeholders of Stuyvesant. And with this, we're able to create a platform that has real change, real policy in it. We know where our limits are, where our limits aren't. We know that we can't actually change the school budget. That is not out of our control. That is out of our control. And we also have released an incredibly detailed platform, 18 pages worth of ideas, of plans. We've made it extremely transparent, and we've been very communicative on Facebook, website, on various social media, and in posters around the school, which other campaigns have failed to do.
Thank you.
So all of our campaigns say we're transparent, but pretty opaque. We're going to be the most transparent administration in the history of SU administrations. Like I said, we're going to, all SU positions will be elected by civil service examinations, and all funding and spending will be released. Right now, you can't see funding, can't see spending. The only number you know is how much they started at the beginning of the year. So that tells you nothing. And we're going to release every single economic decision by the SU, every single.
Great, thank you. So for the next question, so a lot of you guys have stressed communication and transparency, so can you kind of give us the rundown of how exactly you're planning to achieve those two goals? So let's start with Vishwaa and Julian.
So there's a couple of things. One is what the student union can do ourselves. That is, one, using our mass emails, our Facebook communication, Instagram, whatever other social media, and missing room newsletters effectively, and using them to, tell you guys what's happening. Another way is creating newsletters, creating videos, creating posters, creating new forums in which you are encouraged to look at them. Because sometimes you just want to scroll past every post on Facebook. You don't want to open another email because there's 100 colleges trying to email you every single day. So encourage students to see what we're doing in a way that is innovative.
We also want to continue our partnership with Spectator and making sure that we release regular budget reports as we have done in this past year. Make sure we do SU check-ins so that everyone is informed of the student union from the Spectator side as well as from the SU side with newsletters. And one of our new policies is about creating a Q&A forum, an online website through which students can learn more about the student union, can ask questions and have them answered quickly.
Thank you. Caleb and Chelsea?
We're just going to create a daily log on GitHub and post everything there.
Great. On what platform do you plan on creating the daily log?
What platform?
Yeah, like how are you? What?
GitHub.
Okay, got it. Okay, Peter and Ted?
Yep, so in order to increase transparency, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be releasing weekly forms of communication, as we mentioned. We're going to be enforcing that the student union, controlled by the coordinator of student affairs, release and is obliged to release budget and spending communications with outside organizations, as well as all internal memos. So this will directly show the student body and student congress exactly what they're dealing with, what the student union is up to, and what they're talking about, what the policies are being talked about, as well as we're going to have forums. We're going to be increasing information through the newsletter. So overall, we're going to be releasing more information to the public.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, our next question is, why should the student body put their faith in your ticket?
18 pages of ideas. 80 pages of ideas that are complete, have detail, and show you how we plan to accomplish things. That tells me that I can put my trust in a ticket, because they have cared enough to tell me what they will be doing and how they will be doing it. And that sets us apart right away. Our experience is just an added layer, and our accomplishments more so. We've been able to accomplish things successfully, and we've worked for the last 2 years and 3 years in the student union to create these policies, to create better institutions amongst our school, and that says a lot.
Thank you.
We have never served in SU, so we're not corrupt. The end.
Great.
I think what is important here to consider is, although yes, the other campaigns are indeed here, we solely are standing here simply against the current student union, against the incumbent, and that sort of makes ourselves more trustworthy because we're here standing against someone who sure has experience with, again, our bravery and our hope that we can pursue our dreams for the student union. I think that gives us a lot more credibility.
Thank you. So for our next question, how will you and your running mate employ an effective partnership? Let's start off with Caleb and Chelsea.
Okay, so I'm going to, I actually don't know what the purpose of the vice president is. So.
I think what he meant is that he right now what we're doing is that we're working with our campaign managers and asking people around us, our friends, everyone else, what they think should be changed. And so it's not just between me and him in terms of working for the SU. So our partnership.
Sorry to interrupt. So the question was, how will you and your running mate employ an effective partnership in the sense of the dynamic between you two, not with other people?
We'll split 50-50 the policies. I'll do half the policies. She does the other half.
Okay. Peter and Ted?
Well, we're going to be increasing communication between each other so that we are more coordinating when making policies. So instead of just going on our own, I release something, he releases something, we're going to be meeting up at your school, we're going to be emailing, we're going to have forms of communication, messenger, and all that. So we're essentially, including our Facebook page, we're going to essentially be coordinating everything we do, not only between us, but between the student body and student members.
Right, and sort of the idea is that we're basically going to just be one person. We're going to sort of merge with each other so that we can think on the same level, we can think on the same page, and we want to make sure that the students understand that we have the capacity to be able to work together. We're here now, we're working together, so we can carry that on potentially as part of the student union. And again, we want to make sure that students are understanding of this.
Thank you. Vishwaa and Julian?
We've spent the last 2 years working with each other through Multi-UN, through SU work. We've served on the Manhattan Student Advisory Council together. We've even worked on Sing together, organizing that this year. And we also have attended many political events together representing sides of the student union. We've have a long history of working together, and we've learned how to make our partnership work. We know that we need to run the SU as a two-person thing. We need to constantly be bouncing ideas off of one another. We need to be understanding where our failures are, where our weak points are, and exposing them and helping us each other grow, and thus helping the student union improve. And so that history of experience of working together and that outlook that we're gonna try to fix all of the problems in our policies and in our way of acting and our leadership. That's what sets us apart from the other candidates in terms of our partnership and our ability to work together.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next question is, what specific policies and changes do you plan on creating with the other caucuses?
Let's start off with Peter and Ted.
So, of course, one of the main things we're looking towards is the Student Congress. And although, yes, that is student representation, we're looking to create projects with the caucuses. We're asking potentially that caucuses can use their connections to reach out to alumni, to reach out to professionals, so that we can create more outreach, and we can create more, essentially, we can have more professionals in school discuss their ideas. And we're also looking to have the caucuses have more of a say. We're looking to give the caucuses increased voting powers within the student union, both to increase democracy and the power of the caucuses, as well as to sort of reduce the leverage that the student union may have on the caucuses as well as the student body.
Thank you. Vishwaa and Julian?
Yeah, so in terms of policies that we're going to work with the caucus for, we want to collaborate with them and making sure that they have more power, more votes, more funding from us, because they're extremely representative of their grades, and they're able to be effective on that micro level that really affects students. So some of the ways we plan on working with them are through dances that the school hosts, through pep rallies. We've hosted some for the past 2 years, and they've been very successful, and so we want to increase those and improve those. We're also going to work on the Alumni Acts program expansion, which is the program through which students of Stuyvesant, seniors of Stuyvesant can contact alumni, and that's something that we can work with Senior Caucus on. We also want to work on college trips, which is another Junior Caucus or Senior Caucus partnership.
And at the end of the day, we don't know what the caucuses, what their platforms are going to be right now. So what matters more is we understand what their role is, which we've clearly outlined in our platform, and be open to working with them, helping them out as they need. And that's what we want to do. We want to support them on what their platform is and not push our platform on them, because then only are we truly representative for the whole school.
Thank you. Caleb and Chelsea.
So for 20 cabinet members, I'm pretty sure we get elect 12, and the other 8 are the 4 SU caucuses. In order to amend the Constitution, we need 2/3 of, so let's say 20. That 2/3 times 20 is 13.333. Since we have 12, and since we need like more than 2/3, that's 14 minus 12 is 2, so we need to bank 2 caucus members in order to amend the Constitution. Okay.
Okay, next question is, how do you plan on fighting student apathy in terms of the student government?
Let's start off with, okay, yeah.
Okay, so as we mentioned, we have to, so in order to fight student apathy, we have to essentially inform the students when they're most excited about the school. So when a freshman enters the school, when they're not overloaded with the work yet, which by the way we're going to try to put down, they're sort of excited, they want to get involved, they're looking into many clubs, they're looking into how they can get involved. And so with the extended homeroom period, or a debriefing that we will give during that homeroom period, we will let the students know about the student union. And so this will fight apathy, because now the students know what they could do to help. If they find any holes, they could run for student caucus, or they can run for student union later on. So if we essentially start when it's hot, we're gonna fight voter apathy that way.
Thank you. Caleb and Chelsea.
Like I said, we're going to create a petition system where it's called Initiative and Referendum, officially, where students just go on the website, print out a paper, they write down a policy, they get 100 ballots, they submit it to us, and we'll try to the end of the year to fulfill that policy. And that's, yeah. And then the referendum is that we just vote on it to bolster our support for passing the policy, and we can show it to the administration.
Thank you. Vishwaa and Julian.
So students are actually not apathetic. Students, whenever we send out polls, we get 800, 600 responses, and that's a good number, which shows that students are already involved. The question should be, how do we make them more involved? And that's what we're planning to do. First thing, I think the main thing no one else has talked about, let's start with school spirit. Unifying all our athletics under one banner doesn't have to be peglets. It can be anything that we choose as a school. Right away, you're a unified style. Then making sure that there's pep rallies, there's support systems within the school that make us be one community instead of a competitive community always trying to outdo one another. That's the narrative that we have to change.
We also want to work on programs that directly reach out to students, because we don't believe that voter apathy and student apathy is a problem with the students themselves, but it's a problem of lack of coordination, support, communication, transparency from the SU. And so some of our policies include increasing Stuyvantage, which gives students discounts outside of school, thus creating direct change in students' lives. And we also want to improve upon Stuy Activities, the website we created through which students can sign up for clubs. I've been creative it.
Okay, thank you. So for the next portion of the debate, we're going to move on to specific questions geared towards your policies. So first we'll start off with Vishwaa and Julian. It's a long one.
Okay, on your policy of limiting the amount of student union members, what do you believe will be the benefits of decreasing the large number of members of the SU? How might you ensure that the student union will perform as or more effectively than before with the reduced number? And how do you intend for this internal restructuring to impact the rest of the student body?
So we'll give you 2 minutes for this.
So I've created multiple structures while I've been in caucus and SU. And through that experience, I've kind of understood that more people doesn't necessarily mean more work done. It means that there's more reliance on more people to do the same things. When we cut down the number of people that are working on a project, what we're essentially doing is we're saying 3 people work on this, and there's more reliability, but but there's also more accountability on these members. We're making sure that our members are actually doing work and not just there for a position in the student government. And changing that is really important. How does it increase the work? Because we already did it like this year. We already cut down some positions. It used to be executive delegates, and on top of those executive delegates, there used to be an HR department. We got rid of the HR. Executive delegates, we want to get rid of that too because it didn't work out the way we had planned it to. And we see that the roles are being overlapped again and again. So I think we've tested it and we've succeeded not only for me in caucus, but in SU as well. So that can continue. But there was also another part. This was the last part of your question. Sorry, it was like 3 questions in one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to not address it.
Okay, so how might you ensure that the student union will perform as or more effectively than before with the reduced number? And how do you intend for this internal restructuring to impact the rest of the student body?
So I think, as Vishwaa was saying earlier, when we reduce the number of students in the student union, it increases coordination within the student union. There's less expansion, less lack of communication. I mean, departments can work easily with each other, can form collaborations, and makes it easier for work to get done, for communication to be made. So that streamlines the SU. It makes it so that the few people that remain, and it's not going to be an incredibly small amount, but the people that remain are going to know what their positions are, they're going to have specific work to do, and they're going to be the right people to do the job, and they're going to work extremely hard with other departments, with other parts of the student union to create that change.
And before anyone says that this might mean that less ideas come into the SU, that's not true. A lot of the ideas that come into the SU currently, because of like our larger amount of members, are usually the same ideas. What we're doing is we're not cutting the number of ideas, we're bringing our ideas together in a way that involves the students more so by other external factors such as caucuses, homeroom representatives, and whatnot.
Okay, thank you. So our next question is for Peter and Ted. So your policies include some very specific examples on increasing SU outreach to the student body and more student interaction. However, we have noticed that there has been a lack of advertisement on part of your campaign managers on Facebook, and that's like usually like the main platform that tickets use. So we were wondering what steps you both have taken in getting your tickets and policies out to the student body. So for example, social media platforms, communicating through word of mouth, etc.
Right, so this is a process, right? The campaigning is a process, and essentially we have to work around getting our ideas more coherently, and we've been able to diffuse this by essentially sort of word of mouth. For now, we've been passing out some flyers, we've passed out some supplies, and so that's just the beginning. We still have a week left of campaigning, we still have all this time that we can get our ideas out, we can make them more coherent, and so we're actually going to release our actually full-fledged website by tomorrow morning, and so that's how we're actually going to reach students. We're going to make it public, and we're going to make sure the students understand what each of our policies are, and we're going to also post more on Facebook, because I understand that yes, this does seem sort of an issue, but if we have everything clear, if we have everything set, that is more important than getting everything out, rushing everything out at once.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the next question is for Caleb and Chelsea. So for one of your policies about Naviance, but basically for summer programs, we were wondering how you would realistically go about collecting data on Stuyvesant admissions and makeups for summer programs, considering the privacy issues and effectiveness of this. And we were also wondering what kinds of summer programs would be included.
Okay, so first of all, we're going to coordinate with Harvey Blum. He prints 64-page opportunity bulletins like every week. So that's where we're going to get initial data from the programs. To get acceptance, to get acceptance rates or whatever, gender data, racial data, juicy stuff. We're going to ask students to self-report just like regular Naviance. Maybe we can make it mandated, we probably can't, but students will be expected to self-report to help out other fellow students.
Okay, just like adding on to that, how realistic is it going to be that that information will be accurate, and also like, again, privacy issues?
Well, we can't guarantee everything, but it's like, how do kids on Naviance, how does a college office make sure that Naviance students are not actually lying? It's the same concept. the kids here are not sleazeballs. We have to expect them to behave normally. And that's it. We can't guarantee or promise anything.
Great. So just to clarify, your use for like collecting data on emissions and makeup for summer program is going to be self-reported by students.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Thank you. So let's go back to Vishwaa and Julian.
So one of your reforms involves redefining the relationship of the caucus and the SU to make the relationship more effective and efficient. Because you had experience on the caucuses as well as the SU. What is the structure you have right now, and why is it not working? What would you consider the most effective power dynamic between the student union and the caucus? What are your plans for achieving this?
Another loaded question. So I think it's hard to balance. For SU, you're representing 4 grades. For caucus, you're representing 1 grade. So it's like the macro versus micro often clashes because you have different priorities and different agendas. But if we're able to integrate a caucus's idea into our platform and agenda, then we're 1 SU. Changing and redefining how caucuses believe that they're not part of SU because they haven't been given power, how they haven't been heard in SU, how their budgets have often been restricted, and mine were too. That's how we change the narrative of caucuses wanting to be called SU, not saying that they're a different part of the organization. And I think we've already taken steps this year. I think the first meeting that ever happened for student union was in Mr. Palazzo, our COSA's office. It was all caucuses and William and I, and we talked about this dynamic right away. And we said, let's hold aside our personal grudges, or any agendas that we have, and work together and collaborate. And we've been able to successfully do that. The pep rally, it's been in collaboration with the SU and caucuses together. In the past, it was only caucuses. This year's career fair is caucuses plus SU. It's changing and taking small steps to, involve everyone, incorporate everyone's ideas, and working together instead of being like, I am the sole leader in this organization. And putting that aside is really important. There was another part of your question. I think it was like the second one. Sorry.
Okay. So what would you consider the most efficient power dynamic between the student union and the caucus, and what are your plans for achieving this?
So adding on to what Vishwaa said, some of the material ways in which we're going to improve the relationship between the caucus and manage the power dynamic is continuing off of work actually did at the beginning of this year in changing the way votes work in the cabinet itself, making caucus have more votes relative to SU, because we understand that the two should act as equal entities. Caucus holds the weight of each individual grade and having been individually elected, and so we want to make sure that that's clear in all of the decisions that our cabinet makes.
Great, thank you.
So the next question is for Peter and Ted. So your policy vaguely details the finance behind a severe decrease in entry price for dances and other social events, and also broaden financial aid for extracurricular activities as drawn from the budget provided by the Parent Association and various fundraisers. So how do you ensure on maintaining this budget with so-and-said decrease in admission, and what are alternative methods to compensate for other cuts?
Well, okay, so we'd like to point out that the budget is 6 figures, and while we do have some sort of vague rundown as to where it goes, we don't know where the majority of the budget goes. So with our campaign, we will make sure, one of the members of the cabinet will make sure as to how the budget is split up. And again, as we mentioned, as part of our transparency aspect, we will release to the public how we're budgeting different aspects. So if we release a certain amount to one club and to the other, this will be released, so students will be able to see where the money is going, and will be able to, for example, vote on where they think the money should be going. Any meetings that are held regarding the budget will be publicized, minutes will be taken, minutes will be posted on the website. So anything that has to do with financing, with budgeting, will be recorded and will be posted on the website so that students can see, and then they can voice their opinion on it.
And right, one of the ideas is that we are going to use this money to fund these different programs. Again, we have sort of this excess of money, and we can micromanage how much money goes in each project. And so we're going to actually focus on how decreasing the amount of funds, decreasing the amount of costs that we need for the entry price, and doing these things by by using our budget, because again, one problem we have is we don't know where this money is going, but again, we still have this money to use. We can move projects, move money around, and that's one of the things we have to focus on.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
If we answer that, it was also part of our platform.
Yeah.
So a couple of things.
You have 2 minutes.
You can't vote on how much money is going to go to each organization. If we started doing that, then the only clubs activities that are going to get money are the big clubs and activities, debate, law, UN, robotics. That's where your money's going to start going. The whole point of Student Union giving funding is to help the smaller clubs, because they haven't been able to get money from the PA. The PA historically funds the larger organizations. Our 30K that was allocated this year was supposed to help the small, the first-year clubs, so that they can actually have a chance of growing their organization, accomplishing their goal and their dream. And that is what makes Stuyvesant so special. You can take the electives, you can take those courses, and those intellectual values that we all have need to extend beyond the classroom, and that's what our funding is trying to do. The majority of the money, the excess that was called earlier, it's not really an excess. It's a cushion that can be used if Student Union ever doesn't make profit on Sing. Last year, I don't know if anyone remembers, but Sing almost got canceled after the stage collapsed. That would have meant the 50K or so that the Student Union invested to Sing goes down the drain right away, and your excess is no longer excess. You can't have Sing next year. Right away, you're breaking a tradition that is so, so valuable to Stuyvesant. We all love Sing. We don't want to see it go away. And the report has been there. The Spectator released a report. It breaks down club funding, Sing funding, every kind of allocation we do, even down to SU products. That is detailed. That means that the students know what is happening with the money that is supposed to be used for them. And that will continue to happen. And even more so, there was a correction that was published by the Spectator. So both parties are making sure that if we even make a mistake, we make sure to correct our mistake. That's what we have to do, not change how things have been done, because they work fine.
Okay, great, thank you. Caleb, what's your burning question?
I'm just saying it's quite hypocritical criticizing big club funding when last year the robotics club received a $1 million donation.
We didn't give the donation.
Okay, but still, that's SU.
SU is not alumni association.
Okay, next question, directed for Caleb and Chelsea. So one of your policies include updating recall protocols for presidents and vice presidents with a suggestion of removal with 100 signatures every 2 weeks. So we were curious about what the purpose and the message behind this policy was, as well as the realisticness of this was, considering that this would make it so that the student government leaders could be in danger of impeachment 20 times a year. In addition, we were also wondering about the possibility of an impeachment actually occurring, or both a president and a vice president being impeached, as the next leaders would not be people that the student body voted for. So how would your policy work around this hypothetical scenario, and how would you go about that?
Could you just ask 2 questions?
Yeah, I will. Okay.
Very short questions.
Yeah, so to repeat, one of your policies include updating recall protocols for president and vice presidents with a suggestion of removal with 100 signatures every 2 weeks. So we're curious about the purpose and the message behind this policy, as well as the realisticness of this, considering that student government leaders could be in danger of impeachment 20 times a year.
The purpose is to hold SU leaders accountable. It shouldn't be a free ride all year. If you win, you shouldn't say, oh, that's it, I don't have to do anything, and let's not make any policies for the rest of the year. Let's just, do nothing. The message is the same thing, hold leaders accountable. Realistically, you could do this if you just amend the Constitution. And time constraints, really, I don't think it's going to happen every single, there's 20 different slots in which you could impeach for president. It's of course not going to happen every 20 slots, because getting 100 petitions is pretty hard in the first place.
Okay, and how would you address the problem of if president or vice president gets impeached, who will replace them?
Oh, I said in a policy that the vice president will choose the next vice president. They'll just take it on upon themselves. Or I was thinking about the idea, with the impeachment protocol, they could elect the new vice president. With it's a dual ballot. So I say, I want to impeach this person, and I want to elect this person together.
Okay. Great. So that's the end of our specific questions. So right now we're going to head into the attack session. So this is where tickets will have the opportunity of asking each other about specific policies or addressing some issues that they have. So how this is going to work is that we're just going to call on each ticket, and the ticket can choose to address either other two tickets. So is there anyone who would like to start? Yes.
So one of the two other tickets mentioned that in freshman year you guys go to the students that talk because they're excited and fresh and they're enthusiastic about the school. They're going to be more interested, and that's why you guys communicate with them. My question is that they are excited, but at that time they don't know a lot about the school or the policies or the problems. And a lot of what I hear about the SU comes from gossip in the hallways. And I think to change the communication thing shouldn't be a freshman year thing. You shouldn't, and that also comes into experiencing. Like someone with more experience are more likely to be elected later on. And I think that makes it so that in freshman year, if you're enthusiastic, you have to enter. And I don't think that should be a thing because in freshman year, they're not fully aware of what's happening in the school.
So is there a
And
question?
the question is that how are we planning to address this thing that we're as freshmen, as sophomores, juniors, they're not as capable of joining the SU because we see a pattern of those who are more experienced getting elected more. So I want to know what
Okay, anyone wants to answer this?
Well, I mean, I'm not really too sure of the question, but essentially, so if we think about it, the freshmen will turn out to be the sophomores, juniors, and seniors of the school. So if the students, during their excitement get informed about the student union, then they will turn to sophomores who are informed, and then the juniors who are informed, and then ultimately have the information and the experience through the information they received during freshman year to make any decisions that they want and to potentially run, to vote. So if all we're saying as part of our campaign is that we're going to inform students when they're just entering the school so that they have the knowledge that they wouldn't have if we didn't inform them.
Thank you.
How much time do we have, Tina?
We have around 20 more minutes. For this section?
Like right now.
20 minutes
for the response.
Right now it's free for all.
Yeah, free for all,
wow,
yeah.
Amazing. Four freshmen were part of our, there were four directors of SU this year. And yes, they might not have known a lot about STY, but they were passionate. They wanted to become part of the student government. And essentially what you're saying, Chelsea, is that if you're an underclassman, you don't know much, and because of that, you should be undermined and not be a part of the student government, and you should not be represented in the student government. Right away, you're taking away two classes that should be represented in everything that we do. Freshmen and sophomores matter just as much as seniors and juniors, and that's one thing that we have made clear in our platform. By involving freshmen early, it's one way in which you do it, but it's powerful because you start a relationship with them early. You make it clear to them that this government is for them. It is not for only 2 grades that they will soon might be, but by that time they don't have trust. It's somewhat like our current government in America. Go back some 50 years, 60 years. 80% of the American populace believed in our government. 15% now. Let's change it the other way. If we're at 15%, we'll make it 80.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, or do you want to add on more?
I want to say that I didn't mean that I don't want to include the freshman and the sophomore. I'm just saying that right now in the SU, there's no way for someone who has an opinion at any time, any given time in the hallways, when they observe a problem, there's no, in the current system, there's no way for them to make a change when they don't necessarily want to be incredibly dedicated to the SU. And that's what
I'm going to leave it at just this. Freshmen are so much better at working in student government than seniors. I love my seniors, like they are like amazing. They've like helped me this year so much, but the freshmen are so much more dedicated. They care more. They have an incentive too. As seniors get into college, there's also not an incentive for them to work. And I've seen that in not just this administration that I'm currently a part of, but the last two as well. So passion, determination, I can see it right away when 25% of the applicants for directors alone are freshmen. When freshmen want to be part of the government, they should have a chance to be part of the government.
We want to add on that the freshmen are effective. I've been working with 2 freshmen in my department this past year, and they have helped create a whole new part of the student union, which is sexual misconduct courses in all freshman classes, and they're actually just starting them this week and continuing them after spring break. They've been very effective. They conducted a survey, and they've been incredibly effective in talking with all the different stakeholders involved, guidance, the administration, and making actual change. And so it's one of the things that we're really looking forward to continuing next year.
Thank you. So Peter and Ted, do you guys have any questions?
This is directed to the Sofat ticket. You present all these policies, all these ways you sort of want to change the school, but as the incumbent, specifically Mr. Sofat, why haven't you been able to do these things? If we truly want to change the school, we truly want to make sure that students have a better life in Stuyvesant, why have you not been able to do them?
Mr. Tam, I could ask you the same question. Where have you been for the last 3 years, and why have you not been part of student government? Why have you not tried to be involved in our community? But I won't. What I will say is, every year I've been able to accomplish something. Maybe not a lot, but if you go to our experience and accomplishments section for Julian, me and Julian, you'll see we have done work. We've been in effective administration. Changes don't have to be big. They don't have to be that every student can use their phone in every place of the school. They can start at a more micro level, like this year we were able to accomplish. 1st and 2nd floor, now you can use your phones. That was something we did, but clearly you didn't even realize that part. Being transparent, monthly newsletters, working with the spec, bringing that back. Another accomplishment, sexual misconduct workshop. He was right here. He's a freshman. He was able to do something in the student government, and I was able to help him along that way. That's an accomplishment. Civic engagement. Julian's been working on that. Making sure that our youth is able to be involved in our government and our community, not only Stuyvesant, but beyond. That is important. That should have emphasis. Stuyvesant activities. You can now, as a club leader, do so much more thanks to our great IT team than you were able to do a year ago. Your rooms are able to be reserved. You're able to charter properly. We're able to keep a track of clubs that actually meet and don't meet. And we're able to take away the whole narrative of the students only create clubs to get into college. These things matter in the community. So where was I to make changes? I was in the student government. I was working every day tirelessly. I was here until 6:30, 7, 8. I didn't leave the school. I left the school frustrated many times. There's been too many times that I was in Mr. Contreras' office this year, and we argued for hours on, details of policies or how he had let me down at many occasions. And the relationships I've been able to foster, the way we've been able to carry student government, that says a lot. I don't want to say much more. I think the changes that we made this year are apparent to the Stuyvesant community. They're apparent on the list that we were creating the other day and are on our website. So we've been involved, and we're the Sofat Giordano ticket. There's not only one person in this who has experience, but there's 2 people in this ticket that have experience, and we both have worked tirelessly to make sure that we're not only involved, but successful with our involvement.
Thank you. Let's just give Vishwaa and Julian a chance to ask their question before we head on to you.
Actually, we're going to pass that and let them attack us if they want.
Okay, great. Caleb?
Okay, so you keep on saying you're transparent. Your motto is free very similar synonyms of transparent. But why can't you release all financial transactions and fundings like we intend to do? Are you scared of something?
Caleb, if you're trying to say that I embezzled or William embezzled or someone else embezzled, let's be a little more serious than that.
Yeah, how would we know if you embezzled? There's nothing to suggest you didn't embezzle.
So how about this? The COSA is in the room right now. You can ask him for the full report of every transaction, and I think he can first of all ensure you that there was no embezzlement, because every single thing purchased and reimbursed by the SU has to be signed off by not only the COSA, but the principal as well. And then Ms. Pizzarelli checks the receipt to make sure it is actually authentic. So embezzlement out of the picture right away. Why don't we release every small detail of our budget? Because that budget report that we get downstairs is hard to read. Like, you will not be able to read it. Like, we barely understand it at times, and we work with Ms. Pizzarelli for days to make that report. And then Spec goes over it again with us and Ms. Pizzarelli to make sure there's no flaws. So the smallest transactions don't have a lot of value, but if it makes you any happier, I think that's something that our COSA has to decide. And I think it's also for personal and privacy reasons, because at times the student union has to pay for expenses such as students, such as emergency vans and ambulances coming to school, and those details are on the budget reports, and those should not be disclosed to the school. Both sensitive information and too much information at times.
All I heard was that you said that Stuyvesant students are just too dumb to read financial reports.
Really?
So are they too dumb to read it?
No, they're not too dumb to read it, which is why Vishwaa and William worked this past year to actually create
So then why can't we read it? You said that we're too dumb to read it.
We have some members of Spectator here, and they can, I think, tell you that they worked tirelessly with William and Vishwaa to publish a full-length report with graphs and charts. Took up many pages of Spectator.
But why can't we read it right now?
Because
it's
I guess it's on the website. I put the Spectator website.
All I see is a starting balance and the ending balance. I don't know how money
on Spectator website.
Yeah, on Spectator website, it just says starting balance, and then it says.
I'm not sure if Stuyvesant community can't read for budget reports, but Caleb, you surely have failed to do so. Because
where is the budget report? Give me a link. I want a link.
Artem, Amy, Maddie, can you please give them the link? This is you guys have done it. Jonathan, yeah.
stuyspec.com/news/student-union. Yeah, but it only says the starting balance and the ending balance. It doesn't say the, like, oh, $50 went to a robotics club, or $100 went to...
Robotics never got any money.
Okay, but let's say, I'm just making examples. I can't make examples. $100 to the other club, blah, blah, blah. Why can't I know that information?
It gives a holistic picture of where money was given as a totality. Small breakdowns don't really matter in this bigger picture.
Let's say you bought a MacBook with that money.
You're going back.
I see a lot of people in the SU.
Can we move on to a different topic? Can we just end it here?
So,
wait.
The SU has a budget, but that budget exists in the bank account under the control of the school and the school treasurer, which means that no money can be withdrawn from that account unless there's a check requisition that's signed by me, the assistant principal, as well as scrutinized by the school treasurer. So the idea that student union officials are mentally stealing money from the student budget would impugn the integrity of me, the administration, and various other gatekeepers. I do think you can argue that the money that's spent on student clubs, clubs and publications, that money might be allocated correctly. That's totally a fair accusation. Should we invest money in a dance or what have you? But the idea that students here are committing what are essentially felonies, it's free forum. You have the right to make any accusations you want to, but I think I would think carefully before using those words in this context. If you want to see evidence, it's hard to provide evidence of the non-existence of a thing. But the budgeting process is pretty clearly designed to prevent that kind of stuff.
There's no rule that says we can't see that bank account, right?
No, I'm not disputing your
you can
desire to see more. I'm just addressing the specific accusation of doing that. That's the only
I still can't see it, so.
okay, moving on.
That's the end, right?
Are there any other burning questions you guys have for each other?
Just one comment. So, I think one thing that troubles us both is their leaders have to be, are also supposed to be role models and the model student for our community. At times there have been comments and creation of clubs that have gone against a lot of what Stuyvesant values are. Caleb not trying to be too, not attack you here, but you started a masculinist club.
I'd like to protect male rights.
And Ted, at times on Facebook pages, you've made what people have called us homophobic and very insensitive, comments which I've heard people, and those things also matter when you're representing a community. And I'm not saying or taking any sides on what's right or wrong, but I believe in women's rights, I believe in LGBTQ rights, and my question more so is, we have a big organization, two organizations called Stuy Unity and Stuy Spark. They have a lot of different clubs, the MSA, MSA, Feminist Society, and many more clubs that protect these various rights and allow these individuals and students to voice their opinions and freely identify in this school. How would you make sure your personal doesn't become political when you're giving these clubs funding, when you're working with these clubs, and when you're representing the STUY's community?
Okay, thank you.
That's my question.
Okay, so let's just end with describing your campaign with a one-sentence slogan. Who would like to start? Okay, let's start with Caleb and Chelsea.
For the people, by the people.
Great. Peter and Ted.
Renovate, redefine.
Thank you. Vishwaa and Julian.
Transparent, accessible, inclusive.
Okay, great, thank you. And so that concludes our 2019 Student Union debate. Thank you.